Okay, hot stuff. What do you do when you feel like that life and business is just turkey slapping you with one bad thing after the next? Whether you are having a series of proposals that have been turned down, you've had refund requests, you feel like the content that you've spent a long time on isn't hitting it, you're getting sick. You look at everything that's happening through your week and it is not going to plan. There is nothing worse than when this happens. So, how do we reclaim our power back? How do we get back on track when we have had a series of misfortunes? That is what we are covering today, and we are going to have the best ever, sexiest week. Whenever we have things that happen in our business that are undesirable, this is usually what will make us want to quit. And what will usually happen is that thought will be a little bit of a seed in our brain. It's like a little sperm of an idea. And that every time we have repeated stuff that isn't going well, that just intensifies so much that we get to a point where we're like, why are we doing this? We need to be really conscious as entrepreneurs of what ideas we are feeding and what ideas we're just going to like suffocate. And it's really interesting that we kind of get to this tipping point in business where a couple of bad things happen and then it's like we're preempting the next thing. And I want you to get clear on this. It's like if you are ever on what feels like a losing streak, are you more likely to expect a win or are you waiting for a loss? I'm going to reflect back on my Anthony Robbins tapes for a second where he does that thing and he's like, look around the room and look for everything that's red. Okay, cool. What did you notice that was green? Okay, cool. Let's do that again. And he's like, all of a sudden, things that were red, you're trying to look for evidence, and stuff that's pink in that moment, automatically red. Stuff that's a bit of a purpley red, it's automatically a red. And what I think can happen in business is we get to this point where it's like, oh shit, well, everything's fucked. And what we start to do is things that we would naturally gloss over, we add to our evidence bag of why this isn't working well. So we need to have a bit of a switch that we have to flick. And it's like, okay, we're just going to pause for a second and tell ourselves that we are not going to put more evidence in that evidence bag about why stuff is bad and why it's not working well. Yes, we've had a few losses. Yes, we've had some road bumps, but that is not our whole business. That does not need to be our future. So I think especially for the fact that a lot of us listening probably have a personal brand, it can feel like that if things in our business aren't working well, we will kind of internalize this as like a personal failure. And I've been there before where I have felt like, oh, if only I looked a bit better on camera, my stuff would work well. If only I would do this, this would work better. And how I can look at the results in my business and I can look at myself personally and really be like, well, what could I have done better? Instead of forgetting that business is business and it's not always going to be going according to plan. Like that's why it's fun. So because of this, we have a real tendency for our brain to magnify the losses and just forget about the wins. I had this with a client this week where she put something in Slack and she was like, oh, I need to get back on my to-do list. I have all of these unfinished things, and it sounded really dramatic. And I had a moment of being stressed, being like, shit, like what hasn't been finished? How many things are on there? And when we got on our group call, she was like, yeah, there's like 3 things. And I said to her, it's a good day being me if I only have 3 things that are unfinished. And it's really easy, I think, when we have these problems or stuff isn't happening as we would like in our business, is that we can really magnify it, right? It's like we pick it up and instead of just looking at it, we look at every little surface and we analyze it. Instead of just looking at it and being like, cool, well, that's that. Let's just keep moving forward. And what becomes, I think, one of the biggest cock blockers is us wanting to kind of psychoanalyze like why this is the way that it is and why we are to make this the way that it is, instead of just being like, well, cool, this has happened. Let's keep moving forward. What we need to do, I think, firstly, is to just be really clear about the language that we are using. This is where if you're a journaler, it's really good to kind of reflect back on how you talk about things. But sometimes you could even just like voice note your current feelings about how you're feeling about the thing into Claude or ChatGPT and get it to reflect back to you. And what you may find is that you are probably putting yourself into this more than something not working, and how you are making this mean something about you instead of this like external thing happening, okay? So you may be like, oh my God, I'm really bad at this. This has happened. And I see this a lot with business owners really when they're on the cusp of growing, and how the difference I find with the sole trader mentality versus the company founder is the company founder just sees business as business and a bad day is just a bad day. They can kind of leave and walk away from it, where the sole trader feels like that failures in business are like a tattoo that they can't get removed. It is part of them. And what you need to start to think about is that when stuff isn't working well in business, and this is going to happen, right? You're in business. Not everything is going to work out how we want. Is that we need to remember that this is just not us. This does not mean anything about us. It doesn't mean we're bad at business. It doesn't mean that we should have imposter syndrome. It doesn't mean that we're not creative or we're not organized or whatever fucking thing you want to tell yourself. We just had a bad day. We just had a couple of things that happened. Okay, sweet. I've got a business. This happens to everyone. Right now it's happening to me. So what it's about how I can move forward through this into my next win. What would it look like for me to put myself on a path of winning? And you want to start to have that self-talk. And I do this all the time. I think that people tell me, they're like, you have an incredible mindset. And I think because of that, they think that stuff in business is always working and I'm always selling and that I'm making $1 million a month. No, like I probably have some weeks in business where you would earn way more than me. But I don't never lose sight of who I am. I never forget my potential. And that's what we want for you. I want you to remember that. It's like, cool, I don't need to win to know that I'm amazing. I don't need to lose for me to lose track of the fact that I'm amazing. I know that I'm incredible. So what you can identify here are, what are your power leaks? What causes you to leak power and to get into this negative way of thinking? And that is important to identify first, because yes, we want to put you back on like this track of winning, but if you keep easily falling off because you never know when you're going to derail yourself before a win, you could have been one Instagram post or one email away from getting a client, but you were so focused on the fact that you were losing that you didn't send that email and you didn't get the client. So we want to get clear on what is actually derailing you. If you fall off track and you start to like creative direct a screenplay on why you're fucked and you're never going to do well, what causes that? So for me, I used to be a really big like ruminator. I would love to kind of ruminate on things and I would play stuff in my mind and I would think about it from all different angles and, oh, if only I could do this differently next time. And I would tell myself it's because I'm like a type A and let me create a process. The problem was I kept reliving this, and every time I would replay this in my brain, it would get like even more fucking cinematic. It's like, one time we're just marking through. Now all of a sudden we've got lighting when I'm visualizing this and there's a fucking soundtrack playing. That was my favorite thing to do. Maybe for you, you are wanting to loop people into the drama. And because of that, you now will find that you get really easily off track because you have all of these people in your DMs that are like, let's just bitch about how business is hard. Maybe for you, you are so consumed with people that started at a particular point, or you feel like that you were kind of like similar in terms of growth with a friend. And now every time you look at them online, they're just so much further ahead of you. Maybe for you, you are like, I have imposter syndrome, and you've now integrated this as part of your core identity, where you're like, yeah, I do have imposter syndrome. Or whatever it is, like I want you to be like, what makes me leak my power? So for me, it was the fact that I would ruminate on stuff. It was also the fact that I would see people and like, can we be honest? I was like, they're a fucking idiot, but they're doing so well. Like, how come they're doing so well? And my sense of justice would kick in and I would want to just be like, oh, well, how can I do this? And I would derail myself off a perfectly good strategy because I was focusing on what someone else was doing. So we want to identify what is making you leak your power. Then we have a strategy on how we are going to reclaim that. It is good to have a strategy because even though you are feeling how you are now, I want you to get clear on, is this something that you feel like that you come back to? If this is something where you only have a bad day in a year, this is probably not going to like be too suitable. But if you feel like that you continually feel like that you get knocked down or you hold yourself back, it's always really good to have a strategy. So what you can do, and I'm going to give you a couple of things. Try whatever on for size, see what fits, adopt it in. So the first thing that you can do is you can do a thought download. This is from Brooke Castillo, where you write down all of your thoughts and then you will do what she calls a model about it. So this is where oftentimes what we think is a circumstance is our thought about a circumstance. And then it has a flow on effect where our thought will create a feeling. And then from that feeling, we create an action. And then that action will lead to a result in our business. So if we tell ourselves a more empowering, more true thought, then it's going to have this really nice flow on effect. And how, it's really interesting that oftentimes we think that the thought is the truth, but it's not. Because when we actually look at what's happening, the circumstance, we're all going to think about things really differently. So for example, it's like you may be like, oh my gosh, no one's buying. I'm really terrible at what I do. Someone else could look at it and be like, yeah, but you're in a season of creativity because you've just started doing this and you've just started on TikTok and you've just gone into a rebrand. Like you are in that season. And how, something could be happening and two people will reflect on it completely differently. Now, for the people that love to kind of stay in the drama, you're like, oh, I love to kind of like go to my friends that are drama affirming. This is where you are just going to tell one person and then you're just going to shut the fuck up. Maybe that one person is ChatGPT and you are going to voice it into chat and be like, I have had the worst day ever, and tell chat, and then be like, great, I've got this out. Can you maybe reflect back to me why I feel really annoyed and then what I could do moving forward? Because what you'll find is that if you go and you have to tell everyone, we are spending more time staying in the problem than we are moving through the problem. Or maybe for you, it's a boundaries and a standards problem. Maybe you have really low standards and what is actually happening in your business is your low standards keep biting you in the bum. Now, what you want to make sure, and I see this a lot with clients who are like, I have low standards, I did this. This is probably going to be something that is continually going to trip you up. If you are the kind of person that will lower your standards because you're trying to be a nice person, you need to be really conscious about doing this in future. Because it's one thing to recognize, but we want to make sure that we are putting an action plan in place where we don't continually just keep lowering our standards and we keep coming back here. So what you can do is you can look at what is happening now and ask yourself, is this actually a cycle? Is this a one-time thing? Or is this a situation where for some reason I just, it's like a little destination where I keep revisiting? And then if that's the case, do I need to create a higher standard? And then do I need to put a boundary in place to make sure that this doesn't happen? And this is where, when we do this, boundaries and standards work is sometimes uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable because we now have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And if we don't want to do the thing that we don't want to do, great. We have to then have the uncomfortable conversation. We have to learn how to communicate. We have to learn how to say no to people, and we have to learn how to say no to ourselves. Or maybe what you need to do is create a bank of evidence around why you are incredible. And this can be as simple as anytime someone sends you something, they give you praise, you screenshot it and you put it in a folder and you read it. And you remember who the fuck you are. Now, I do this. I have a folder in my computer and it's like email praise. And anytime someone writes back to an email with something nice, I put it in there. Anytime someone sends me a compliment or they say something lovely, I screenshot it, I put it in my phone. And if I ever have a wobbly moment, I go and I read it and I remember who I am. And I remember that this is not going to continue if I stop because I'm focused on the drama, or if I am more focused on the losses that I've had. I need to keep moving forward because I'm getting this evidence of a small section of people, because not everyone is going to tell me how I'm making their life or their business better. You also can do something as well called a focus wheel. And this even can come back to the initial tip that I gave you around like having a better thought, looking at your thought. And this is where you can kind of combine that task with the little evidence collection, where you'll do this focus wheel where you put the central thought or something that you're aiming towards. And what you do is around it, like imagine putting that on a page in a circle and then putting out these like little sunbursts, like these little I don't even know where those little hearts came from, these little sun rays out. And then in each section, it's kind of like a ladder where you're building up. Maybe the thought that you're working towards is it's like, I'm getting paid like $50,000 per project. Like that's what you're working towards. And for some reason, it's just not panning out. But the work is good. It's valued at $50,000. So then what you do is in each little section, and maybe go and Google it, just type in focus wheel so you can see what I'm talking about. You'll write like a little thought around each. So it's like, cool, what's the thought that like this first little rung of the ladder? And it's like, cool, I've had a client. Cool, what's the next thought up? I've had a client that's paid me good money. Cool, what's the next thought up? I've had repeated clients. Cool, what's the next thought? People have browsed this sales page around this $50,000 project. Cool, what's the next thing? People have had a discovery call around this. I've submitted proposals around it. And what this is doing, it's adding evidence to support the idea or this new thought or this new belief or new identity that we have evidence where this is kind of already happening. This is something that I used to do all the time when I started my business. Is if I was feeling wobbly, I would go and do a focus wheel that would affirm the thought that I was working towards. Where even if I was like, I have no evidence, it's like, bitch, you have so much evidence. Go collect it. Go collect like your little 10 to 12 pieces of evidence and tell yourself why this is going to happen. I think the key to moving forward and having our little comeback is the next thing that we do is really important. And I think what we need to do is not make it really big, not make it this huge leap. I think we need to keep it small, but I think the thing that is important is the speed in which we do it. It's the speed in which we make the decision, and it's how quickly we action it. So for example, this is sometimes where if people have come out of having like a bad quarter, they'll be like, let me go and I'm going to plan to take myself away and I'm going to rework my whole offer suite. And they make this really big goal instead of making something really small. And the success metric of that is just the action of doing it. So for you, it could be, right, you know what I'm going to go and do to get me back on track? I am just going to go and close my laptop. I'm going to say, fuck this shit. And I'm going to go for a walk for 10 minutes around the block. And I'm going to put on some bad bitch music. As I'm listening to this bad bitch music and I'm walking, I'm just going to send one follow-up message. Or I'm just going to write a list of 10 people in my phone that I should follow up. Something like that. And it's about doing it and putting yourself intentionally back on track. A lot of the time, people will create this huge vehicle of change and they make this really big goal instead of being like, what is the one small thing that I could do now that I could do very quickly to put me back on track? So I want to share something with you. I've got like a hot little story of why sometimes we just need to keep moving forward. And even if it feels like that stuff is not working out as it should, it doesn't mean that it is not working out. So I had a situation where like all my clients basically got pregnant or moved overseas. In that period of time, I was like, I need to move forward. I need to move forward in a way where I feel like I'm working more. And I had cash in the bank, which allowed me to do this. But I worked out that I probably need a bit of a creative outlet. I'm like, let me just park my current business, but I'm going to keep the momentum in my current life. Now, this isn't for everyone because quite often you'll get sidetracked, you'll forget about a project. For me, I'm really good at doing like Peter Pie hands, multiple things all at once. So I'm like, let me keep moving forward. And if I'm not having successes that I want in my business, I'm going to give myself success in another area, right? And what I had decided to do is I decided to start another business. And I told myself, I think you need a bit of a creative outlet. And the win that you can have then is just you're focused on creating, you're not needing to sell. It's like the win for you is just getting out regular content and committing to a creative process. And as I was working on this, you know, I've had some like little hurdles with deciding on the name and a couple of things like that. But, you know, I've continually pushed forward with this and it's now coming together in the most beautiful way. And because of that, I got the wins there that made me realize in my business that even though I was not getting the wins that I wanted, I was still a fucking winner. And this may be something that's really good for you to do, is it's like if you are so drilled into your business, is to go and do something else where you know that you can win. Like if you're an incredible cook, go and cook an amazing fucking dish. Like go and wow yourself in the kitchen and remind yourself of who you are. Like see that you are a winner. This is inside of you. Even though that we're kind of in like this little bit, and even if we're in this like little bit of a hiccup in business at the moment, it's like this just doesn't need to be our future. This is just something that's currently happening like right now. So the difference between struggling business owners and business owners that win, it is not the absence of loss. It is not that the fact that they don't have little hurdles. It's that they've got really good recovery. Losses happen, not so ideal circumstances happen. It is about the decisions you make, how quickly you make them, and how quickly you recover. Bouncing back is a skill, and the quicker that you can master this and make it not mean anything about who you are, it is going to serve your business so well. Shit happens, and when it does, make content about it. It makes for an incredible chapter in your book. But the most important thing is that you remember who the fuck you are, and that you get your power back in whatever way you want, and that you remember that even though sometimes it feels good to ruminate, because this is a familiar feeling, is that what is really going to serve you is getting back the fuck on track, stacking up those wins, and even if life feels like it's turkey slapping you with losses, go and get your fucking wins, because they are there. Because you got to remember, if everyone else is ruminating when shit isn't working well, there are all these little wins just sitting around to collect. So go get them, hot stuff. Go get your fucking hot, sexy wins. Oh my gosh, hot stuff. I've loved this. I've loved you. It is a beautiful day. I feel like every time I'm in the boardroom, we say that. It's like, I'm feeling good. I love you more than the weather. Because how fun is vitamin D? How fun is the sunshine? I feel like I've got some like little reptile blood in me. I'm like a lizard. It's like the sun goes out and I'm not in a good mood, and then the sun comes out and I am feeling fucking fabulous. So I love you more than that. I love you more than really good people. I'm sitting in the boardroom, and as we were filming this, there were two guys who are sitting in our little dedicated desk section that I sit near. They're great guys, and it feels so nice to have built connection and community in a space where I see people and they acknowledge you and they talk to you and they say hi. And this has been some intentional effort from me. Like, I come to work, I build community. Even if I don't know people, I'll always make an effort. And it's so nice that I'm in here, I see people I know and they'll say hi. It feels good. Like, I know this is really small, but I always think that it is a skill in life that wherever you go, that you create community. And if you do that, gosh, that is such a good business skill. And it's not something that I don't think it came naturally to me, because I can be a bit in my head and sometimes a little bit closed off. But if you can master this hot stuff, it will take you far. So I love you more than that. And I love you more than a potential product idea for this new business. I think I'm going to do e-com. I think I'm going to do it. Oh my gosh, I haven't actually declared this to anyone. So if you are listening to this, you're finding out before anyone. I don't think we're going to start with e-com. I think it's going to come eventually once we get an audience, and it's going to be a niche random little product. Like, it's not too random, but it's random enough but on brand. It's really interesting because I've identified how I have grown so much as an entrepreneur, because when I looked at the cost of this and the cost of getting stock, it's a couple grand. Like, it's going to be a couple $1,000. And I'm like, well, you know what? If it doesn't work and you lose money, you lose money. Like, who cares? Just go and make more. And it's really interesting that when this was my Pilates DVD, I was so focused that everything had to do well. And now I'm like, well, I don't care if it doesn't do well, because for me, it's putting me back in this creative process that I feel like I really need. Like, I think it will do well, but I'm not putting so much pressure on this where this has to be like this huge multi-million-dollar brand. If it turns into that, amazing. But if it doesn't, that's fine. Awesome. So I love you more than that. I feel really lit up by this, and I can't wait until it's a little bit more formed and I can share it with you. So hot stuff. I love this. I love you, and I'll see you on the next episode.